I told myself I didn't need any more editing software, but I was wrong. Here's what happened. I've been ignoring Nik Collection forever. Not because it was bad or anything or thought it was bad. I just never really got around to giving it a chance or giving it a try. So I figured, with the release of the 9th version, which they're calling their biggest update yet, I thought it was the perfect time to kind of dive in and give it a try. And my full intention was to use the 30-day trial, then purchase the software and make this video for you. But something really cool happened. If you're into the woo and believe in manifesting, then that's exactly what I would call this. Out of the blue, DxO actually emailed me. Yes, I'm not making that up. It shocked me. I thought it was a scam at first. I actually had to go and legit check the email because I just full on didn't believe it as a guy with, 200 odd subscribers. But they said they'd found my channel. They liked what I was doing and my approach, and they offered to give me a license to the program so I could, kind of give it a whirl and give my honest thoughts and feedback, and that is all. So they don't have any say or control or anything. They literally just kind of, said, here's the software, let us know what you think, make a video, run with it, and that's all. No talking points, nothing. So I'm going to do exactly that, and I'm excited because this is the first time that anything like this has happened, and being such a small channel, it felt like a very, cool opportunity, and also I was already planning on doing it, which is absolutely insane. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to open Nik Collection 9. I've got 3 different photos that I'm going to run through and kind of use 3 different plugins for that to showcase what it can do. I have not spent much time in here, so I like to keep it as genuine as possible and somewhat fumble through it together so that you get genuine reactions. And I'm essentially seeing it for the first time. I have not edited a photo in here yet. I simply opened it to kind of, see what it looked like and make sure I'm not completely lost. But other than that, it's going to be my first time doing it together. So that's what we'll do. Just some quick background before we dive in. If you've never used Nik Collection, like me until a couple weeks ago, essentially it is a suite of 8 different plugins. I'm really only going to focus on 3 of those because I feel that only 3 of them are relevant to me, how I edit, what I like to do, and my workflow. Those 3 are going to be Silver FX, which is their black and white conversion tool, which is supposedly incredible. Color FX, which is more for creative color work, also up my alley. And Analog FX, which is for like some vintage, retro, fun film effects. And I also enjoy that stuff. So those 3 are going to be what I'm focusing on in this video. The others are like Sharpener, Define, which is also sharpening, Viveza, and then also Perspective, and I think there's an HDR tool in as well. None of those really apply to me. I'm not going to spend any time talking about them or working with them. So if you want to see more about those, we can maybe do another video on that. But for today, it's going to be just the main 3 creative tools that I work with or that apply to me and my workflow. So, a couple other things. Version 9 added better masking, so AI masking and stuff, which obviously in 2026 you would expect to see that. They added color grading wheels, blending modes, and also just a couple new effects in there as well. But my big question is basically, can a regular, normal person who just likes editing photos and stuff produce something that they're happy with without spending hours watching tutorials or reading manuals or whatever? So that's what we're going to find out. Let's dive in. Okay, so I've got this photo I took during a recent trip to Alberta, which I was very grateful for. We got to see the mountains, we got to visit Lake Louise, and that's where I snapped this photo of the mountains. And again, it's nothing, super great, but I thought it was a good photo to use for the Silver FX black and white conversion. I think it'll look kind of neat in black and white. So that's exactly what we're going to do. And we've got this little button here for Silver FX. I'm going to go open, wait for it to launch. And look at that. We have a black and white image already. And yeah, so real quick, I'll just kind of run through the basic interface here from what I've gathered. Categories over here, you have classic, landscape, modern, portrait, street, tinted, vintage. So different looks, different black and white looks, depending on what kind of shot you have. Obviously, I have a landscape photo here, so I'm going to go into the landscape. And then if you look at their presets, so here's our original image. Here's the contrasty black and white, subtle glow. Also, in this version, they have added, basically, you can just hover over a preset and it'll give you a live preview. And I guess that wasn't a thing before, which thank God it is, because that would drive me nuts if I had to click each one to actually get a preview. But now you can just hover over and it'll show you the live view, which is great. So I'm actually liking the look of deep landscape. It is definitely deep, so we will adjust a little bit, but I don't think we're going to have to do much. So if you aren't aware, and from what I've read and watched and everything, Silver FX is like the gold standard, or GOAT, if you will, application for black and white conversion. And one of the best things, in my opinion, is that they use real black and white film stock. So if you go over here, you'll see film types, and you can just, roll with neutral and kind of just play with it the way you want. Or if you are someone who, if you're familiar with film stocks, if you're someone who maybe has been a photographer for a while and you've shot actual black and white film stocks, then you will definitely appreciate this. So they have all these different ones base, and it goes by ISO value. So like ISO 100, you have all these different actual film stocks, and they are like perfectly emulated and very well regarded, well respected for this work. So I am probably going to go with something in the ISO 400 range. Don't ask me why. It just seems to look the best to me. And well, that's definitely not it. See, I'm familiar with like T-Max, but Ilford Pan for some reason is calling my name. So that's what I'm going to go with. Again, this is our beginning image, and this is where we are at. The grain looks amazing. So if I zoom in here, hold spacebar and kind of move around. The grain is like chef's kiss. I am really digging the actual film grain here. It's quite dark and contrasty. Now I did choose the deep landscape, so that's kind of giving that effect. We have our tone curve here. I'm not really going to touch anything. Here's our grain value. I really love the grain, so I'm not going to mess with that. Clear view, I think this is almost like a clarity. Yes, so but it's definitely working. It's like a dehaze clarity mixed, if you're familiar with like Lightroom or want to make some kind of comparison. I'm sure there's more going on there, but to kind of draw comparisons the best, I would say that's kind of what's going on. And that looks really good. I like that at 75%. Now we just have our basic adjustments here. Also, back to the left side panel here. Yeah, so besides your presets, you have all your different filters and adjustments that you can add. So first, we'll just kind of work with our basic adjustments. I don't think the brightness needs to be changed much. I will up the shadows a touch because the tree line there is looking pretty dark. Midtones, maybe just a touch. And you can get a, quick look. It's very subtle what I'm doing, but I'm making a difference, I swear. Dynamic brightness. Okay, so yeah, it's doing things. Contrast is definitely good. I don't think we need to do too much, but you can amplify your whites a bit. Whoa. That's definitely something you want to finesse, because we don't want that to look too crazy. And also, on the flip side, you can amplify your blacks. Ooh, that's kind of cool, which I actually like. So I feel like I'll go a bit more with the amplifying the blacks. And maybe adjust the contrast a touch. And then we have a soft contrast option. So I'm not sure. Whoa. Okay. Okay, so that softens your contrast, as you know the name would suggest, which I very much appreciate. So if we do that 10%, let's take a look again now what we've done. Very subtle, but we're building a look here. We also have our structure adjustments. I'm not really going to mess with that. I think everything looks pretty good structure-wise. Yeah, I'm liking the look of it. This looks really good right now. The only thing I might do is if we add a local adjustment and then we do a depth mask. Okay, so this is new for Nick Collection 9. They've added this AI depth mask. So as you can see, I'm moving it around. It's showing me what areas are going to be affected. And then you can actually, I'll show you. So I'm just going to select some of the tree line here that are a bit darker. So I'll click, and then you get this little sub menu, but you don't have to use that. You can go down to this menu here, and you can actually move the spread of this. So as you can see, I'm moving more of that to be like what the actual depth is. So I'm trying to get more of the tree line in there and finesse this a bit. So I can slide this down so it's like feathering more, and then maybe a bit more this way. And then we have most of that. So now we can kind of brighten just a touch. I don't want to overdo it. And fine structure 7. So yeah, and then we can kind of slide it to exactly where we want it. I think that's maybe here. That looks really good. And yeah, so that's really cool because you can really fine tune this to make these adjustments using masks. And the depth mask thing is just like really, really clutch for dialing in very specific edits. Love that. So that looks great. And honestly, I mean, we'll go and show you a couple more things that we can do in the actual filters. Selective tones, I'm not going to worry about. We already have our basic adjustments in there. There is another toning one. So I'm not sure. Oh, this is like a split tone thing. So we're going kind of sepia. Not going to worry about that because that's not the look I'm going for. But if you wanted to give it more of a blue or cyan or coffee, you can really go like deep with these edits. And I'm starting to understand why this is like, you know, the tool for black and white conversion, because it's so much more than just a simple, you know, hitting convert to black and white like you would in Lightroom, or using the built-in profiles on Lightroom. This is much more in-depth. So I'm actually not going to use that. I'm going to get rid of that. And then we can do a little vignette maybe and see. So it gives you preset options of like lens fall off, which looks really cool. The white, you know, like a negative vignette, if you will, and then kind of a black frame. So I like the lens fall off. I think that looks really cool. And that looks awesome to me. Burn edges, again, because this is more of like the kind of film emulation, you can really get the look you're going for. If you want it to be very filmic, that's kind of what these, you know, these plugins are all about, is creative edits. And I'm someone who loves to, you know, edit creatively. I'm not really much of the, you know, purist, if you will, for shooting and getting making it look exactly like it did in camera or in person. I do like to take my edits more creative than that. So this is right up my alley. But yeah, I'm gonna just, you know, do a little burn edges there, and you can, I guess, move it around. So based on these presets here, but I selected all edges. But if you just wanted like top, bottom, left, right, whatever, you can work with that. Cool, very cool. And then they also have borders, and the borders are very nice. So let me show you a couple here. Love that right away. So there's a couple different types that really, again, relive that classic film look. And these are just clutch. And I'm someone who, when I share stuff on Instagram, I pretty much put a border on everything. I use a like third-party app after I've edited my stuff to do it. But I may start putting borders on my images in here because they look way better than what I've been using. So yeah, this looks really good. I'm really liking this. And if I saw this and didn't know any better, I would probably think that it was taken on actual black and white film. And that's the whole point. So let's look at where we started. Again, there's nothing overly special about this image, but I do think the black and white really just works for this image, and it's exactly why I wanted to choose this. Yeah, super pleased with that, and I will happily, I don't shoot much landscape, but I definitely want to try this with some of my street images to dial in a really good black and white look. And you can save presets. So everything I've done here, if I want to save that, I can just go down here, click Save Preset, and then anytime I load up any other images, it's right there for me. So once you build a look that you love and you want to kind of keep that and use that so you can have your own creative look, it's right there for you every time. So that's wicked. So I'll just hit apply, and it's processing the image now. Should send me back to Photoshop here. Let's zoom out a bit, close this, and there's our final image. And I'm just noticing, I don't know if these are marked on my lens or not, or on my sensor. I'm just gonna ignore that for right now because that's, don't love that. But otherwise, this looks fantastic, and super happy with that. So let's bring up our next image and we'll dive into Color Efex and see what we can do in there. Okay, so this is our second image that we are going to load into Color Efex, which is for some creative color edits. And this is literally what it looked like straight out of camera with nothing done to it. Totally unique photo you've probably never seen before, but yeah, I obviously had to snap, a photo, classic scene of Lake Louise like this. The greenish water is incredible. Mountains in the background, a little bit of foreground element there with the tree on the left, and obviously this little hut. But yeah, like just a crazy, remarkable scene, and that it looks like this without any edits done. But we're going to take it a step further in Color Efex. So let's launch that and get going here. So there's a lot to unpack with this one. I'm obviously not going to go over everything because we would be here all day, and we don't need to do that. So same sort of thing. You got your categories on the left side here, and there is a little bit more. So you have architecture, color, contrast, creative, landscape, lens, light and bright, macro stuff, portrait, softening, vintage look, and wildlife. So tons of different applications that can be used for using in Color Efex. So again, we're working with a landscape photo here. So we're going to go to landscape. And as you can see, it changes what filters are available to use. And then we have a preset list here. So there's Blue Monday. So we'll hover over that. So Blue Monday, definitely not my vibe. Clarity bump, which is not bad. Contrast black and white. Again, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it in Silver FX for black and white. Even on a cloudy day. Foliage bump. HDR like, absolutely not. Lavender, if you want a magenta look, I guess. And I'm definitely not digging that. Red rocks, not the right scene for this. Soft landscape. Ooh, now that I do like. You know what? Let's go with that. And as you can see, everything populated here on the right-hand side. So we'll take a quick look at what we've got. So it did a neutral density filter, that ND filter. So typically this is something you would put on the front of your lens to bring down the exposure. And, you know, but it has this built in, which I didn't even know, and that's super cool. So if we look at what it's doing, subtle, but it is making a difference, which is cool. And you have all kinds of different adjustments here, and there's even diffusion, which I like. So I'm gonna leave it as it is, but you can change the overlay or blending modes, I should say, which you can create all sorts of different looks. I'm not going to mess with that because it gets really crazy and in-depth, and we would literally, again, be here all day just messing with those. So I'm liking the look of it. If we look at what we started with, and this, that is almost a completely edited image using just that preset. So let's look at our filters. So what we've got, brilliance and warmth, we can turn that off and see that's doing a lot of the heavy lifting for the look. And also, if you want to dial something back, you know how Lightroom now has the adjustment slider for, you know, moving the intensity of a preset. Same sort of thing here with opacity. So if I wanted to kind of lessen that effect, I could dial that back. But I like it. It looks good. I'm going to leave it at 100. Tonal contrast off and on. That is making a world of difference. And they've got everything down to 100% and contrast switch to fine. So interesting. If we, you know, again, reduce that, it's doing a lot, but the image looks really good. So I, again, am going to leave that. That looks really nice. Vignette, obviously I could see a bit of vignette, but it works. And for this image, you really want to draw your eye towards the middle, obviously with that being the main focal point, and a vignette really works for that. I do this all the time in Lightroom, and I will do like a radial gradient and invert it, and then reduce the exposure to kind of draw your eye towards the middle, or whatever the subject is in the photo. So that works. Happy with that. It's not too strong. It looks really good. I could, you know, if I really wanted to, maybe just reduce it a touch to 15, which looks good. Pro contrast. So, oops, I didn't mean to do that. If we turn that off and on, it is a subtle amount, but this is way more in-depth than stuff you're going to see in Lightroom. So you can, I feel like you can elevate your edits way more in this, and you know, like correct contrast and dynamic contrast and really dial in. And there's even, if you want to correct color cast for this photo, it's not really a concern. But like so much control over the image, it's kind of crazy. So let's look at what else is here for filters slash effects that we can add to the image. So clear view, we quickly saw that, I think, in Silver FX, which is like, it's almost like clarity and dehaze together. And I feel like for this image, it might help. And it, as you can see, as soon as I start increasing that, if you look at the water and the sky is where you're going to see that the most. So it is, yeah, I'm guessing this is not, you know, scientific by any means or based on really anything. It's just my eyes. But it is kind of like a mix of clarity and dehaze that you would see in Lightroom if you were to move those sliders. And it's, to me, it's bringing out the image, like, or details in the image for something like landscape. So I would definitely use it in this manner. And then there's we can look at the color grading because it is one of the new things that have been added for version 9 of Nick Collection. It's kind of a key feature, if you will. They didn't have this before. And it's all done on one wheel, which is kind of interesting. But if you want to, not use the wheel, you can do things manually down here and choose each thing individually. So your shadows, your midtones, and your highlights. And you can give them a color and adjust the full spectrum here. So if we go to our shadows and we maybe move it towards like I'm going to go with like a teal-ish. The luminance is a bit high. I'm going to darken that. And then midtones, we can put that maybe more towards the orange, but again, I'm going to put the luminance near 0, saturation maybe even less than that. And then highlights, we don't want blue and blue highlights and shadows, so I'm going to move that to kind of counter the shadows into the orange range, and see what we can create. And then you can shift your balance towards, lean more towards the shadows or more towards the highlights, and build your look from there. Now, this doesn't look great because I quickly did this. But again, if you want to work from the color wheel, you can, this is your saturation this way, and then your hue this way, and then you can adjust your luminance after as well. So you can really dial in a creative look if you prefer to do color grading, on a wheel. And there's tons of different examples online of different color, like if you look at True Color Science and contrasting colors and everything, you can really develop a strong look. But since we've already played with other things, I don't really need to do this. This is probably something I would start with along with like basic adjustments if I really wanted to create a look. And again, you still have the opacity slider, so you can kind of like lessen it, maybe set at like 50%, and then it's just doing very subtle effects. But again, I just wanted to show you this because it is a key feature, and it's something I probably will use, but just not for this specific scene. So I'm going to actually get rid of that, and let's see what else we got. Dark contrast, dark and light center, detail extractor. I'm curious about detail extractor. So, whoa, okay, that looks terrible, but I feel like it can be helpful. It's just a bit too powerful the way it is. So this is something I would use sparingly, but if I set that at like 5%, and then if we look at before and after, now that's much better, and that's more of the look I would want. So let's punch in a bit, and again, before, after, you can see the tree line especially coming to life there with the detail extractor. And if we go out, I think we're at like a really, so if we look at where we started, again, and I thought it looked pretty good when it, just came out of camera the way it is. But to me, this is much, much better. And it's almost even more accurate of what it felt like in person when I was there. So I think I'm quite happy with where we're at. There is a ton of other things you can do in here. So film effects is built into here too, so you can do all kinds of film looks. There's fog, foliage, graduated filters, high key. Indian summer, I have no idea what that is. I'm going to click on that. Okay. Weird name for a tool, but I don't really, we'll see what's going on here. Okay, so it's like giving a amber tone to the foliage instead of green. Very interesting. Very weird. Okay, I guess, you know, that could definitely be useful, and I'm sure it has its place. The name is interesting, but not something I think I would use often unless I was doing like a, you know, maybe a really like moody fall edit. That's not my style, but I can see where someone might want to use it. Let's axe that. Midnight, don't know what that is. Okay. Whoa. Color set. What is going on here? I have no idea what is happening. Okay. So, shadows? What is... I'm not sure what this is for. Maybe I should have researched it a little bit before we dove in, but I don't know where I would use that. We're just going to go ahead and delete that. Polarization might be cool for this, if it's what I think it is. So, oh, let's reset it and up the strength. Okay, so it's literally doing what a polarizing filter would do on your camera. If you look at the sky there, that's mostly where you're going to see it, and a little bit in the water, but not really needed for this. What else do we have? Solarization, sunlight, white neutralizer, remove color cast, reflector. Let's look at reflector Efex. Whoa! Okay, soft gold, silver. Okay, I see what's happening. So this is like if you have those ginormous 5-in-1, are they 5-in-1 reflectors? Or whatever. But I've used them before, and they're super helpful on a shoot. You know, you'll have a gold side, you'll have a silver side, and then you'll also have a just like translucent. But there's also soft gold on this, which is interesting. Basically giving you a warm or golden look, and then, or a cool silver look if you want that. This is really interesting. And again, this isn't the best use case for it, but the amount of control you get is kind of crazy. So you can choose the angle / source direction of the light. Okay, that's neat. And change the fall off. So if you were doing like a portrait, I feel like this would be really helpful. And I feel like it would just kind of suit the image a lot better and a better representation, because you could do like a gold if you want to like illuminate someone's face maybe, because essentially that's what you would be using that for with an actual reflector. And then but doing it in the plugin is a very interesting take. I'm gonna have to try this with a portrait. We don't have time for that today, but good to know. Okay, cool. I think that's enough. I think you get the idea. There's a lot to unpack just in Color FX, and we do not have time for it. I just wanted to give you a quick look, but there is so much that you can do. And this is simply scratching the surface. But if we look at our before image and after, I am super content with that. And I would happily share that as well. So that's where I'm going to leave that for now. I'm going to hit apply. And then we are going to dive into our next image, which is a portrait I took of my dad. And we're going to just jump into Film FX or Analog FX and have some fun with it. So yeah. All right, so this is our third and last image that we are going to look at here. And I'm going to bring this into Analog FX. And this is more kind of for like fun, I'm going to say. A lot of it is just fun edits, probably not nearly as serious as like Color FX. That's where you're going to do more of your like professional or serious creative work, I feel like analog FX is a lot more fun, but fun is good. So this is a photo I took of my dad. We were trying to recreate a look. If you've watched this show, Mobland, it's a Guy Ritchie show. It has Tom Hardy and Pierce Brosnan. Anyway, my dad kind of looks like Pierce Brosnan, so we had fun with this. I made a whole video about it. I will put it up here. Not the best video, but it gives you a just a quick background look into our process that day and bringing these photos to life. So that's enough about that. Let's open Analog FX and see what we can do. So this is the totally raw image here of my dad. And if we look again, same layout, you start to get very familiar with the layout here and how things work. But you have your categories over here on the left. So there's like bokeh, classic camera, color cast, creative, double exposure, monochrome, motion, multi-lens, paper, photoplay, toy camera, and vintage. So all kinds of different looks. I'm going to go to all so you can kind of see everything that they have to offer. So this picture is completely unedited. This was straight out of camera. It's a raw image, and we used off-camera flash for this. I think it turned out really nice, and it's just nice to have these photos of my dad. But let's have some fun with it and kind of see what these presets look like. So that's not terrible. And this is a 70s instant photo. The border is, again, the borders in this like suite of plugins are fantastic, and I will 100% be using them moving forward for sharing images. This is, whoa, very vintagey looking. Another black and white. This is a antique look, and you get like all of these effects in here. If you really, really want to sell the vintage film look, analog autochrome, not really my style with all the purple and stuff. This black and white, not bad. It's a very like low contrast, soft black and white look. This one's more high contrast, very faded look here. The edges is actually really cool. I like that. This is like almost like a cross process look. Again, I'm not going to go through every single one because we will be here all day. But there's so much here to work with and create. I think the best thing we can do with this is actually go into our filters instead and just start building a look on our own. So we have our basic adjustments over here. We can also add a film type, and we'll add maybe a level and curves. We'll add some light leaks, some dirt and scratches, and yeah, I'm going to turn these off for now because it's a bit much. But we will start with a film type, and we're in like the warm look, which I like for this because it's kind of what I was envisioning when I started this, with this photo. I was envisioning a warmer kind of look. So let's see what we got and build on this. So I think I'm happy. If we go hardness, I don't know what that does exactly. Hardness is 100. I'm not seeing a whole lot of, difference here. Not sure. Doesn't seem to be changing a whole lot unless that's, a grain thing. But I'm happy with the warm look. So we will roll with that and roll into our basic adjustments. Detail extractor. Again, this is going to be a very powerful tool, and you want to use this carefully. So I think like 2% is probably good. Brightness, I'm going to go down a touch because I want it to be a little bit dramatic. and up that contrast. Saturation wise, again, very subtle. Curves, this is where I like to work, and we'll do the classic S curve here to make it pop. And if we want to sell that vintage look, I'm probably going to lift the blacks a bit and crush our whites. And now let's look before and after. We've got the start of something here. What else can we do? So we have some dirt and scratches. So dust and lint, scratches, if we really want to make it look, whoa. And now obviously, again, you can adjust the opacity with this to, you know, really dial it back. It's a bit much. So I think this one is pretty good. And even still, I'm going to like roll it back a touch, but it's selling the look. So that's good. Again, we have our light leaks, and these are also way too frigging powerful. So I'm not going to use these at full strength. I don't know who would ever use these at full strength because they were destroying the image. But I feel like if we change the blending mode, maybe, if we just use a screen, yeah, this is very, very powerful. I don't want to ruin the whole image, you know what I mean? Like, it's very, very much taking away from it a bit. And I can actually even reduce the opacity with the blending mode as well. Sorry, I blanked there. Now, if we go before, after, we're building a look. What else can we do? Photo plate. Whoa, okay, so that's also kind of giving super vintagey look. That's almost too much. So these are all basically just like overlays of I don't know, on top of the image to sell that analog vintage feel and look. Lens vignette, crazy strong, but you can kind of move this around and adjust the size as well, which is cool. So you can change the shape even to be circle or rectangle. So I'm going to just adjust this, and then shape-wise, rectangle would be cool and suit the image. I like that, actually. That is pretty sweet. So that looks good. Before, after. And chromatic, no, holy. Okay, I know someone would like this or want to use this and find it helpful or useful, or, you know, obviously it is definitely a creative look. But it's a bit strong. Like, dialing it down is kind of cool though. If you were doing, you know, some creative work, let's say, I'm trying to think where I would, like an application I would actually use this would be like if I'm shooting a band or something like that, or maybe like a cover image for a band or something. I feel like this would be a really cool look and would fit the bill. It does look, you know, obviously cool like this. It's not the look I'm going for, but you can also change the channels a bit to get a different look. And the blue and yellow is kind of cool with this to match that warm vibe I'm going for. It's cool. I don't hate it. I didn't think I would like it at all, but after dialing down the opacity, it's definitely kind of neat. Glass effect. Okay, This is one I saw that they added for version 9 and were like advertising it. And right away I was like, I don't understand the appeal, or why they would make this a focus of a, like a key feature. I really, truly can't see any application in which I would use this and like want to use this, if that makes sense. Obviously, you're getting tons of neat looks, because it's literally like putting a pane of glass in front of the camera. But I really just don't see the appeal. That's just me, maybe. I don't know. I don't think this is like a super key feature, and I would literally never, ever use it. So that's a no for me. Paper texture, though, I will go with, because I think there's value here. So if we go vintage paper, and again, this like makes it look like a print, like an old print. I'm just trying to find one that isn't too overpowering, because it's still a bit much and it's taking away the details. But we're definitely achieving a vintage look here. Multi-lens. Okay, this is interesting. And okay, if you wanted to create something like this, sure. It's certainly interesting. I don't know how it... Oh, okay. So you can adjust where... Okay, that's cool, I guess. Yeah. So if I wanted 3 of my dad, I can use this. Again, it's one of those things that's like super fun. And I feel like analog FX is for the less serious edits, more fun, definitely creative. But like, I don't know exactly where I would use a lot of this stuff in my everyday work, or like actually sharing my work. But if you really wanted to create something unique, there is a lot of tools here to do that. Just not, it's not totally for me, like all of these. And even this is a little bit more than, my typical, what I would do with an image, but I'm trying to showcase all the different things you can do here. I do love the frames. The frames is a huge like thumbs up for me. And like the old classic white frames, these just look so good. And if I use anything, it's going to be the frames in all the different applications and all the different plugins, because I think they're so good and they look amazing. So having that option is just fantastic. But this is certainly giving a vintage look. It looks like an older photo, I think. And this was a very quick edit where I just kind of threw some stuff together. So nothing crazy, but like, I think this border looks the best with what we've done. And I'm going to save that and actually send it to my dad to see what he thinks, because yeah, I think that's kind of cool. It's very, very vintagey and giving a lot of analog, old school feel. So we'll hit apply with that and call it a day. And yeah, so that covers the 3 plugins that I wanted to touch on. And we, again, like barely scratched the surface with a lot of this stuff. Obviously, it's hard for me to really show you everything it can do, but that's not the intention. I just wanted to kind of try it out and share my experience of trying it out with you, so you can get a first-hand look to see how things work and function and what's available to you. So if you'd like to save 20% and purchase the Nick collection, there is the sale that's running from the 15th of June to the 10th of July. And they kindly gave me a discount code for you guys, so definitely check it out. It's TJ Summer 2026. Everything will be in the description below, along with a link. And the best part about DxO software is they offer you a 30-day trial to just, have full access to everything, to try it out, see how you like it, and if you fall in love with it, then you can make the purchase, and with this code you can save 20% off, which is great. So hopefully you enjoyed this. If there's anything else you'd like to see, or maybe something I skipped over and you want more in-depth, we can definitely look at doing that as well. And I'm excited to edit more images using this and dive deeper. This is, again, like my first real deep dive into it. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you like this kind of content, please hit that subscribe button, and we will see you again soon.